The void spat them out, battered, bleeding light from ruptured hulls, their shields flickering like dying stars. No banners, no broadcasts, no demands for surrender. The black ship drifted at the center, scarred from bow to stern, hull plating sealed by patches of alien alloy ripped from the dead. Its crew stood in silence, watching the screen where the nameless enemy returned. No insignias, no transmissions. Just a wall of jagged ships that moved like predators, scenting blood, weaving between wreckage and the broken bones of fleets already devoured. They didn't need to announce themselves. The silence was their signature. Vadran's voice cut through the dark. Weapons live. Every gun, every turret, every pulse. Orders hit the deck like hammer blows, but no one asked who they were fighting. No one cared. The war had outlived explanations. The Exocarn had a face. The Morphic Revenants had their nightmares carved into memory. But this was something stripped of identity, a force with no voice, no name, no demands. It didn't want surrender. It didn't want territory. It just wanted to erase. Rhaegor's hands flew across the tactical array, eyes locked on the approaching wall. Unknown alloys, shifting energy signatures, weapons that pulsed in frequencies that didn't match any known race. The black ship's sensors struggled to make sense of the data, spitting out fragmented reports, heat spikes, gravity distortions, brief flickers of what might have been biological readings fused into metal. The only thing that came through clear was intent. Total, uncompromising annihilation. Wyatt's boots hit the deck hard as he moved to his station, jaw clenched so tight his teeth might shatter. The last battle left them limping. Repairs were a patchwork of desperation and stolen tech, power grids stitched together from systems meant to kill each other. The ship itself groaned under its own weight, like a beast too stubborn to die. And now they were staring at an enemy no one understood, no one named, no one escaped. Dr. Lysara stood at the bioterminal, scanning frequencies that shouldn't exist, picking up patterns hidden beneath the static. A signal pulsed once, twice, then vanished, as if something on the other side tested the air before retreating into silence. Not communication. Something older. A pulse like a heartbeat, echoing through every layer of corrupted code, crawling into the ship's nervous system like a splinter that refused to heal. Kaler slammed a fresh charge into his weapon, pacing the deck like a caged predator. The enemy ships moved closer, a synchronized formation with no wasted motion, no hesitation. They didn't scan, didn't hail, didn't even adjust course. They knew exactly where the black ship was, like they'd been following all along. A tremor ran through the hull, not a weapon strike, not a system failure. Something deeper, a resonance spreading through the ship's skin like a vibration caught between frequencies. In the medbay, Saren 4's neural implants flickered and spat sparks, his cybernetic systems screaming in feedback loops. Whatever they were facing, it wasn't just attacking their ship. It was reaching into it. Vadran's voice lowered, almost a whisper. All batteries fire. The black ship spat death into the dark, beams cutting through vacuum, missiles streaking into the wall of silence. Some hit hull, some vanished into distortions that weren't there a second before. The enemy ships didn't slow. They didn't retaliate. They just kept coming, burning through the wreckage of every battle that came before. And then the signal returned, not from the enemy fleet, but from inside the black ship itself. The same pulse. Once. Twice. This time, it didn't vanish. This time, it answered. Somewhere deep in the ship's core, a door unlocked that no one knew existed, and a voice not human, not alien, whispered through the comms, speaking a language made of hunger and cold. The war wasn't new. It had always been here, and the black ship had always been part of it. They just didn't remember. The crew stared at screens that no longer showed the enemy outside. They showed memories they never lived, battles they never fought, a history they didn't belong to until now. And in the silence that followed, one thing became clear. The enemy knew their names. Every last one. The void spat them out battered, bleeding light from ruptured hulls, shields flickering like dying stars. No banners, no broadcasts, no demands for surrender. The black ship drifted at the center, scarred from bow to stern, hull plating sealed by alien alloy ripped from the dead. Its crew stood in silence, watching screens where the nameless enemy returned. No insignias, no transmissions. Just a wall of jagged ships that moved like predators scenting blood, weaving between wreckage and the bones of fleets already devoured. They didn't announce themselves. The silence was their signature. Vadran stood with her hand on the central rail, knuckles tight, skin pale beneath the dried blood crusting her gauntlet. Every battle stripped away another layer of who she used to be: the officer, the strategist, the believer in cause and victory. What stood there now was something colder, a creature carved from loss and necessity. Behind her, the crew moved like muscle memory, no one speaking unless orders required it. Familiar faces, worn thinner with every fight. Kaler's fingers curled around his rifle grip, even on the bridge, his back never turning fully toward the doors. He was always waiting for the next betrayal, the next boarding drill, the next thing that came through the hull, hungry for marrow. There were no breaks anymore. Sleep came in 10-minute collapses against bulkheads. Food was whatever didn't grow mold in sealed pouches. Lysera's hands trembled over the bioterminal, not from fear, but from chemical suppression, stims and nerve regulators, keeping her mind just sharp enough to track the impossible. Scans spat out data that made no sense, technology folding into biology, folding into something ancient and malignant. Every time she thought she understood the enemy's systems, the readings changed, like the fleet outside was learning how to lie to the sensors faster than she could read them. Wyatt stood at tactical, jaw so tight his teeth might shatter, shoulders locked like bracing alone could hold the ship together. The last battle left the black ship limping, repairs a patchwork of desperation and scavenged technology stripped from enemies they barely understood. The ship's power grid flickered between human protocols and alien instincts, adapting to alien alloy plates grafted to the hull like scar tissue. Every alarm was a gamble system failure or new evolution. The ship itself groaned, a beast too stubborn to die, fused with the bones of its kills. The wall of ships outside moved closer, each hull a twisted riddle of weapon ports and alien growth, organic fibers pulsing beneath fractured metal. No formation, no hierarchy, just a swarm moving with predatory intent. Rhaegor's fingers danced across his console, pulling fragmented readings from the tactical array. Unknown alloys, shifting energy signatures, weapons pulsing in frequencies that didn't match anything logged. The only consistent reading was intent. Every signature locked onto the black ship, like the enemy recognized something inside it that even the crew didn't. Lysera's bioterminal flickered with interference, patterns crawling beneath the data like whispers through cracked glass. A signal pulsed once, twice, then vanished, not a transmission. Something older, like sonar, brushing against something too vast to understand. She swallowed back bile, fingers moving too fast over the interface, tracing threads of corrupted code that snaked through the black ship systems. It wasn't just external. The pulse came from inside the ship itself. Kaler slapped a fresh charge into his rifle, pacing the deck in tight circuits. Predator, recognizing predator. His armor still bore the gouges from the last boarding assault, morphic revenants with fluid limbs and faces they stole from memories. That fight left him with a limp he never shook, nerves scarred deep, pain flaring every time the deck jolted. Pain kept him sharp. Pain reminded him they weren't dead yet. Vadron's voice cut through the air. Weapons live. Every gun, every turret, every pulse. No one asked who they were fighting. No one needed to. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about denying the enemy whatever they wanted, even if it meant burning the black ship down around them. Orders hit the deck like hammer blows, crew moving because muscle memory was all that remained. Rhaegor's screen flickered with static, resolving into half-formed symbols etched in ultraviolet light, alien, ancient, yet somehow familiar. Every ship in the Nameless fleet carried the same signature. Not language. Not orders. Identity. They weren't just ships. They were fragments of something larger, pieces of a fleet that had died long before humanity's first war. And the black ship recognized them. Wyatt's fingers dug into the console edge, knuckles white. His first tour wasn't supposed to be this a freshly minted officer thrown into a war no one understood, fighting enemies that rewrote themselves faster than tactics could adapt. He remembered clean uniforms, perfect doctrine, speeches about the honor serving in humanity's final defense. All of that burned away the first time he saw a revenant wear his brother's face, voice begging for help while its hands tore open a bulkhead. Lysera's screen spasmed again, the pulse returning once, twice, then steady, a heartbeat made of corrupted code. This time, it didn't vanish. This time, the black ship answered. Deep in the core, beneath human steel and alien graphs, something old stirred awake. Files opened that no one had access to, encryption keys burning away like fog under sunlight. Memories poured into the system, battles logged in languages older than Earth, tactics built for enemies with no faces, no names. The black ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a survivor from a war no one remembered, carrying scars from battles no one fought. Kaler felt it before he saw it, a tremor in the deck, vibration crawling through his boots like static electricity under skin. The enemy ships outside shifted in unison, weapons dimming for a breathless second, like they felt it too. Whatever the black ship just remembered, the enemy already knew. Vadron's grip tightened on the rail, voice dropping low. All batteries. Fire. Beams cut through vacuum, missiles streaking into the silence. Some hit hull, some vanished into sudden distortions, space folding like muscle reflex. The enemy didn't slow. They didn't retaliate. They just kept coming, burning through the bones of every fleet that came before. Lysera's terminal screamed with new data biological readings, spiking not from the enemy, but from the black ship itself. Neural activity where there were no brains, organic signals threading through power conduits. The ship wasn't just remembering. It was evolving. Flesh and machine fused by memories too ancient to name. Soren 4 convulsed in the medbay, neural implants firing in overload loops. His cybernetic mind dragged into the awakening system like a drowning man chained to a sinking ship. His hands clawed the air, fingers tracing symbols no human hand should know, mouth shaping words no human throat could speak. The pulse returned one final time, not a signal now, but a voice. It spoke through every speaker, every terminal, every bone. Not human, not alien. Something older, colder, worn smooth by eternity. No demands. No warnings. Just a single statement carved into the walls of the black ship's memory. Welcome back. Vadron's eyes flicked to the screen, where the Nameless fleet parted like a mouth opening, revealing something darker beyond. Not a ship. Not a planet. A wound. A scar cut into reality itself, bleeding history and hunger. Whatever war the black ship belonged to never ended. It just waited for them to remember. Wyatt's voice broke the silence, hoarse and low. "What the hell are we fighting?" No one answered, because no one knew if they were fighting at all or if they were just coming home. The lights flickered, but no one called it out. The crew had lived with dying power grids for too long, watching the black ship bleed energy like a severed artery. Every system hummed at the edge of failure, patched with alien scraps pulled from wreckage and corpses. But this time, the flicker came with something else, a sound just below hearing, a vibration in the bones, not the ears. Lysera's fingers froze over the bioterminal, eyes locked on a set of readings that shouldn't exist. Deep in the ship's sublevels, below even the engineering crawlspaces, a compartment registered pressure change. A door opened where no door should be. Kaler was already moving before the words left her mouth, rifle slung, jaw tight, boots hitting the deck with a rhythm born from knowing too much about things that moved where they shouldn't. Vadran didn't stop him. Command wasn't spoken anymore. It was instinct carved into every step, every breath. Wyatt followed, sidearm drawn, eyes darting like a man expecting the walls to move. They made it to the access ladder that led down into the spinal corridors, places not meant for crew, places where the ship's bones were exposed and alien plating pulsed with memories it had no right to remember. The air changed as they descended, colder, heavier, the recycled oxygen laced with something metallic that clung to the throat. They found the door at the end of a hall that shouldn't exist, bulkheads twisted at wrong angles, welded from mismatched alloys, human steel fused with alien bone and something else, something blacker than space itself. It was open, mist curling out like breath from a dead mouth. Kaler's grip on his rifle tightened, motion, scanner trembling in his hand. One signal. Small, moving slow. Wyatt's boots scuffed the deck, and the sound echoed back wrong, like the metal wasn't metal anymore, but something thinner, stretched taut over a void. The door led into a chamber they couldn't have known existed, walls carved with symbols that flickered between language and circuitry, glyphs burned deep into the metal like scars. In the center stood a figure, back to them, skin slick with condensation, breathing shallow. The figure turned, and for a heartbeat, Wyatt saw himself reflected back, same uniform, same weapon, same face twisted in terror. Then the reflection shattered, and the figure took a step forward, skin reforming, features twisting into something halfway between human and machine. It wasn't a morphic revenant. It wasn't even alien. Lysera's voice crackled through the comm, words running fast and panicked. Genetic scan complete. The figure was crew. Logged months ago, declared dead after a hull breach in the outer ring. Name erased by time and fear, but the body remained reconstituted, rewritten, something between resurrection and infection. The ship hadn't let them die. It absorbed them. It remade them. And now it was waking them up. Kaler's rifle barked once, the round punching through shoulder and spine, but the figure didn't fall. Flesh rippled, absorbing metal like water swallowing stone, wound sealing before blood could fall. The figure's eyes flicked open black from corner to corner, reflecting data streams cascading through invisible networks. It spoke with every voice the ship had ever known, layered over each other in a chorus of pain. Not a message. A memory. They dragged the figure back to medbay, restraints wrapped so tight, bone creaked even though it made no move to resist. Lysera worked in silence, fingers moving with detached precision, scanning tissue that folded between human biology and alien grafts. Every organ bore scars of modification, lungs lined with nanofiber, veins carrying currents instead of blood. The figure was a walking black box, memories locked inside tissue and bone, a recorder buried in a corpse the ship refused to bury. Soren 4 sat up the moment they entered, neural implants humming in sync with the figure's pulse. His eyes rolled back, mouth-shaping words in a language the crew had only seen carved into wreckage. The ship was talking through both of them now. One corpse dragged back from death. One soldier, too, augmented to know where flesh ended and code began. Lysara matched the pulses, layered data over bioreadings, and found something that froze her hand mid-motion. The genetic signature in the figure cells matched the black ship's core database. Not a crew record. A builder's mark. The ship was rewriting its crew to match something ancient in its own bones. Vadran watched from the door, face blank, but fingers trembling at her side. The black ship wasn't just evolving. It was remembering what it was built to be and reshaping the crew to fit that memory. Every grafted plate, every alien upgrade scavenged in desperation had been part of a process the ship had been waiting to complete. The crew thought they were repairing it. In truth, the ship was digesting them, folding their flesh into its design until no difference remained between the black ship and those who walked its decks. Kaler paced the medbay perimeter, rifle never lowering, breath shallow. He knew the taste of betrayal too well. Comrades turned by revenants, bodies stolen by parasites, trust shattered in the flash of a friendly fire muzzle flare. He didn't trust the figure strapped to the table. He didn't trust the ship beneath his feet. Most of all, he didn't trust the silence every time they asked the ship for answers. Because the ship remembered him too. Every wound, every scream, every moment he begged it to hold the line. And now was holding him too. Wyatt's hands shook when he holstered his sidearm, fingers still remembering the trigger pull when he first shot a friend turned enemy, that split second where recognition fought instinct and lost. He didn't want to know how many more times the ship would make him do it. Every repair drone carried the same genetic trace. Every automated system bore fingerprints that matched no living crew, but plenty of dead. The ship had been harvesting its own DNA woven into control circuits, memories burned into black box arrays, voices layered into emergency broadcasts. It didn't just carry its dead. It wore them. The figure spoke again, voice clear this time, a single sentence carved from every language the black ship ever encountered. One phrase that sent Lysara stumbling back from the bioterminal like the floor had vanished beneath her feet. The builders are coming. No one needed translation. They all knew what that meant. Not the Dominion, not the Revenants, not the corrupted flesh machines stitched together from war's leftovers. The ones who built the first ships, who wrote the first codes, who seeded the first wars to shape species into tools,